Well, hello everyone. Hi, my name's Eric Nordberg. I'm the Dean of the Paul Meek Library, and I want to welcome everybody here today for this interesting event. This is part of something we call the UT Martin Research Series. We started this about a year ago, and our intention was to really highlight research that's going on our UT Martin campus. As many people know, the University of Tennessee at Martin is really a great teaching college. We have wonderful teachers here that help our students to succeed at the undergraduate and graduate level. But oftentimes, individuals may not know that our faculty and our students participate in a lot of original research as well. So this series was intended to highlight that, and we invite faculty members to come and talk about their research agenda, to talk about projects they've worked on, and whenever possible to talk about how that research influences what students learn and the student experience here at UT Martin. So today's kind of a special activity because what you're going to hear today about is really a student-led project, although a professor here is going to talk as well, but the results of this research are going to be things that these students apply in the classroom and hopefully in conference presentations, poster presentations, and possibly even publication. Meanwhile, a whole bunch of us got the opportunity to drink free pop for a while. I'm from the Midwest, so we call it pop. But before we get over to the students, I want to make sure that everybody knows that down the hall back this way are the restrooms. If there's an emergency of any sort, please head towards either the door you came in or just on the back side of this brick wall, there's an emergency exit as well. It's always good to know where your exits are. There's nothing that will illuminate the floor to tell you where to go. So. I want to first just take a very brief moment and introduce one of our supporters today. If any of you in the audience are drinking Mountain Dew right now, you will be drinking donated Mountain Dew that came to us from Pepsi Mid-America. That's the regional distributor for Pepsi products here. And I'm very pleased that we have with us today Ricky Price, who oversees the Paris office for Pepsi Mid-America. They're based out of Marion, Illinois, but Ricky does all the work here that delivers good things to us. So Ricky, if you want to have a few moments, I wanted to make sure that you were aware that he was here so he could talk a little bit about his own experience with Pepsi in this region, but then talk a little bit about Mountain Dew as well. Ricky.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much. Guys, thank you very much for having us this afternoon. It is an honor and a pleasure as the youth of today. I have to say that starting my career at Pepsi Mid-America, if anybody doesn't know where the Dairy Queen is here in Martin, that's the old Pepsi facility. I started there 74. Actually, I was in high school, worked part-time, and I'm gonna get into recruiting here for a second. So you remember this, so if you're looking for a job, I am hiring for part-time, and then when you do graduate, I can put you to work. So I did start my career here in Martin, Tennessee. This was a producing facility till it was purchased by Marion Pepsi in 1972. What you're seeing today is this brand right here. A little history, and they'll run through it. In the early 50s, when this product was produced, it was offered to my competition. They turned it down. What a crazy mistake. They've chased this product, and they're still chasing it. They've done everything else to try to manipulate this product. They've cut the price on it. We didn't back off, but the power of Mountain Dew is great. Why is Mountain Dew so great? It's just Mountain Dew. It's just Mountain Dew. Why do we have an interest in Martin, Tennessee, and all surrounding counties of a 5-state area? We go marketing. It just so happens this presentation, when they call me, has anybody ever seen that can right there with the Grind logo? This can, Mark Latimer and I, if everybody knows Mark, we're great business partners. He's not my customer. UTM, we're business partners. We grow our business together. This was one of the most successful cans that we think we ever produced that came from Martin, Tennessee. I asked Mark, they're 10 years in business, and I don't want to get hung up on this. He said, "You're going to put me on a can?" I said, "Yeah." We don't do it for but it's a destination point. People drive from 5 states, St. Louis. I had a guy from Florida, out of a franchise area. People were sharing this on Facebook. It was a great success. For marketing, my goodness, what can we do help to grow the power of Mountain Dew or all Pepsi flagship brands? So again, these cans are collectible cans. I did bring a few today, which left. When we ran this can for production levels, anybody, and I did offer to Eric, we can do a plant tour. If you ever want to bring some students up, I will set up a plant tour for you guys to see how production. We run about 2,400 cans a minute, which is 200 pallets, mass production. We produce over 3 million cans of these. I've got probably some of the last 3 million cans that's not people's got collected. So again, I don't want to tie your time up, but I want to say thank you guys for letting us in here today. And I thank Eric for reaching out. If you all know Charlie Dill and the Chancellor, he's a great friend of mine. And I'm blessed to be a part of the UTM. I got to say, my granddaughter just graduated here and now teaching. So if you don't think higher education cannot be here to help you, keep doing what you're doing. Keep supporting this university, become alumni to the university when you leave here, and you'll be very successful. And never forget where you came from. And thank you very much for having me today. Thank you, Eric.
So I will also tease those of you that are here in the live audience to stick around afterwards. In addition to the Mountain Dew, Ricky's brought a whole bag of swag. So some items. Since this is a class for supporting a class in marketing, he thought it would be good to do a little marketing while he was here. And as he mentioned, he's always looking for employees, both those currently enrolled, but those who may be graduating soon. So make sure you get one of his business cards while you're here. The other reason that this project occurred is that right now here in the Special Collections Department in the library, we have an exhibit that's been touring about the history of Mountain Dew. What state was Mountain Dew created in? Tennessee. Most people don't understand that, and so if you get a chance today or throughout the rest of this calendar year, stop in at Special Collections Department. The exhibit is on tour from the East Tennessee Historical Society in Knoxville. It's a great exhibit. If you don't know much about Mountain Dew, you're going to get a whole earful of different things there. So that'll be open today after our event is over, but it's open every day, Monday through Friday as well while you're here. And if you need to come in on a weekend, let us know. We can figure out how to get you in there to look at that as well. So there's a lot of ado. Without further ado, I do want to introduce Christian Bushardt. Christian is a lecturer in the College of Business and Global Affairs here at UT Martin. I reached out to him and a couple of others many months ago and said, hey, we got this Mountain Dew exhibit. You think there's anything that you might do as a tie-in for some sort of programming? And boy, I just saw those little gears start to turn, and I'm going to let him tell you the rest of the story. So with that, Christian.
All right. Let's see if I can. Are we going to fit? We are. All right. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. All right, my name is Christian Bushardt, and this project initially started with some contact from Dr. Norberg asking if we wanted to do a tie-in event for Mountain Dew and the Mountain Dew exhibit. And at the time, I was actually doing a taste test in one of my classes in our Marketing 105 course, our Introduction to Marketing. And we looked at using that data, but we decided that it really wasn't at the level that would be needed for an entire presentation available to the public as well as the university. So I sat down and spoke with my Marketing 320 class and said, hey, we've got some options on what we're going to do towards the end of this year. We have a big project that we do. We can put that on the back burner and we can instead pursue a marketing research project focused on consumer behavior in the soda consumption market. And I'm happy to report that they were ecstatic about foregoing an individual project and instead doing a group project. I'm not sure if the motivation there was decreased work or an internal desire to generate some data and discussion, but I will certainly give them the benefit of the doubt. And they have been outstanding and fantastic throughout this process. So I do want to acknowledge our Marketing 320 consumer behavior students. If you all would just stand right now. These are the students that are responsible for the data that we have here today. If we could give them a round of applause. Thank you, guys. And if you notice, we did that before the presentation, so you've already given them your accolades regardless of what we present here today. And I thank you all for showing up. We'll try to keep it rather relaxed. And that's one of the benefits of consumer behavior, is that we have all had some experience being a consumer. While that might not be true in all context, certainly in soda consumption, and what we have found through our data analysis is that most of us have some experience. So let's go ahead and dive into the slides. First, we need to talk a little bit about the history of Mountain Dew. This can be a point of confusion. We've got 3 products that we're going to talk about today. Also, if you see any typos or errors, keep in mind that we collected this data on Friday. So I spent the entire weekend with the students up there in my office analyzing this data, including 6 o'clock this morning. So if there are any minor errors, please laugh with me, as we are extremely sleep deprived. So the 3 products we're going to talk about today are Mountain Dew, Mountain Dew Throwback, and Mountain Dew Real Sugar. Everyone should be pretty familiar with Mountain Dew. It's the product that we have had since, for most of us, we've had access to since the day that we were born, although our parents probably restricted our access to soda for the first number of years. Once we had autonomy in order to make our own purchase decisions, we likely interacted with Mountain Dew and have some experience with it. Mountain Dew was developed originally around 1940. I'm leaving it a little vague because there is some disagreement depending on what article you look at. And it was purchased by PepsiCo in 1964. Mountain Dew Throwback was introduced in 2009 as a limited time offering, and it was meant to be more representative of the original flavor of Mountain Dew. Now, keep in mind, the flavor of Mountain Dew and the exact ingredients in the production have changed over time. So while it may not be an exact replication of the original flavor, it is more true to the original flavor than current Mountain Dew. And this is something that we see in almost every industry. We see a continual adoption or adaptation of the product based on changing consumer needs and wants. So this is not uncommon to see a product slowly change as consumers grow and develop in their understanding and in their purchase habits within the marketplace. So not unexpected. The result is that we had Mountain Dew Throwback being produced for a number of years as a limited time product, and Mountain Dew saw that it was highly successful, said, you know what, we think there's enough demand that we can now produce this as a permanent product. They decided to change the name to Mountain Dew Real Sugar, highlighting the main difference between the existing Mountain Dew product and the more throwback or more originally applicable recipe using cane sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup. Oop, got both computers going here. So as you can see, we've got 2 soda cans. The soda can on the left is going to be our Mountain Dew Real Sugar, MDRS, you'll see that abbreviation throughout the presentation, and then we have our regular Mountain Dew. So the differentiation between Mountain Dew Throwback and Mountain Dew Real Sugar is going to almost be entirely in name. In terms of ingredient differences, we're going to ignore those. So for the rest of the presentation, we're going to talk about Mountain Dew, current production Mountain Dew, and Mountain Dew Real Sugar, which is representative of the Throwback brand since they changed it to offer it more consistently. As you can see, the differences in the products are sugar versus high fructose corn syrup. We're not going to get into the science of the different ingredients. That's a little outside the scope. But there's also actually a sodium difference as well. That was rather unexpected, and that's not really the focus of our presentation today. We're more focused on sweetness perceptions and so forth. So cane sugar typically comes from what's harvested from a plant that naturally goes in the ground, the cane sugar plant, and then high fructose corn syrup is derived from corn. So not a major difference in terms of the product and how it's used, but there is a difference in terms of sourcing the initial product. So in terms of our data collection, you're going to see right in front of you 2 cups that both have Mountain Dew in them. So I wanted to show you this so that you would understand. If you came to our data collection, raise your hand if you came and tried the Mountain Dew. Fantastic. You guys are going to be in this data set here. You're not going to be individually identified, so don't worry. but we do talk about it in aggregate, so we greatly appreciate you participating in our survey. If you recall, this should have been essentially what you saw, 2 white cups with Mountain Dew in them, and as you can see, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to differentiate between the 2 sodas by sight alone. We collected this data over in the University Center last Friday, November 11th, from 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. Our process was we used what's called the mall intercept method. Although we weren't in a mall, we were generating a convenience sample by being available in a specific location. And those of you that were unfortunate enough to go to lunch at that time, I think we harassed you until you were willing to participate in our study. Again, we greatly appreciate that. We gave you 1-ounce samples of each soda, and then unbeknownst to you, we alternated giving you A or B first. So some of you that came up, the first soda you were given was Mountain Dew, and then some of you that came up, the first soda that you were given was Mountain Dew Throwback or Mountain Dew Real Sugar in this example. We used a paper and pen survey, which is not that common in 2022, so we had a wonderful experience hand coding those late at night. I enjoyed it. My students may have a different opinion on that. And then respondents were aware that they were trying Mountain Dew and Mountain Dew Throwback. We did not inform them of the difference between the 2 products being the sweetness. And there were reasons for that. We were concerned that if we told them that, then they would use their preconceived notions about which one would be and should be sweeter as compared to the reality. And we had very few, if anybody, mention that they were aware of the difference between the 2 products without us having told them. So respondents were unaware of what the difference was, although they were aware that they were 2 different products. You can see our testing process here in terms of the actual collection of the data. So this is our measurement of 1 ounce. If you've ever wondered what 1 ounce of Mountain Dew looks like in a measuring glass, that's what it looks like. And yeah, you have to smack it down a few times, make all the bubbles come up to the top before you get the right level, so it's quite a bit of fun. But as you can see, we had some questions we asked them before drinking, such as, what is your weekly soda consumption? What is your Mountain Dew consumption, as well as preference? And then what's your Mountain Dew Throwback consumption and preference? They answered those before having tasted the sodas. Then we asked them while they were drinking to evaluate soda A. For some of you, soda A was Mountain Dew. For some, it was the Throwback version. And then after drinking, we had you evaluate the sweetness and then also identify the soda and tell us some level of certainty about that identification. We gave you a palate cleanser, and then we repeated the process with the second soda. And finally, we got to some demographic data. So a question for you guys. We've done this a lot, and one of the most frustrating things is, how do you label the cups so that as a researcher, you know what you've given them, but the person tasting doesn't know what they've been given? And I can tell you, we have tried many different methods. In fact, this is a big confound that's argued in some of the original Pepsi challenges and so forth. So what we do is we use a foil sticker on the bottom. And just to show, can anybody tell the difference? Can anyone tell which one's the gold one and which one is the green one? Go ahead and place your bets now, because the answer's coming up next. Everybody comfortable? Anybody correct? Did you feel confident in it, Sarah, or do you feel maybe 50-50 was on your side in that example? So we didn't seem to have a lot of people that said that they could tell what the soda was, so we're relatively confident in our manipulation, which can be extremely difficult to do. So some of the descriptive data that we have is there is equal number of males and females, not exactly identical because it's an odd number of respondents, but as close as you could get. Very interesting enough. 59 undergraduates, 2 staff members. We did check on the staff members in terms of their influence as outliers. They did not influence the actual data. They did influence some of the demographics, but those are unimportant. Average age is 21, and then the number of Mountain Dew drinkers, that should not be there, my apologies, is 23. You can also see the categories broken down. Within is the number of respondents, so the number of people that fit into that category. So we had a total of 61 usable surveys. We actually had 63 total, but we had to, 64, but we had to eliminate 3 of them for impossible answer choices, such as they told us that they regularly consume Mountain Dew, such as I drink 5 Mountain Dews per week, but then we asked them how often they consume Mountain Dew, and they said never. So 2 questions that were impossible to give those answers to, so we pulled those respondents out, giving us 61 available ones. We had 10 people that do not drink soda, relatively at all. And we looked at them for some information, and we'll talk about that later. 2 or more per week was 37, 5 or more, 20. Those numbers will be meaningful as we go through some of the statistics. Average soda consumption per week here on campus amongst these students that we surveyed is 3.7. Mountain Dew consumption per week is 0.7. If we take out non-soda drinkers, we see 4.5 average consumption, with 0.8 of those being Mountain Dew. So about 1 in 5 sodas consumed here on UT Martin campus is going to be a Mountain Dew. That's some very interesting data. That's quite high when you think about all of the choices we have in terms of soda. So now for some data. One of the caveats to keep in mind as we talk about this data is what is significant and what is non-significant. So in statistics, you have alpha levels, p-values, whatever terminology you'd like to refer to them as, and that tells you while something may be different, is it statistically different? And I can tell you here that you're looking at these differences for identified correctly and did not identify correctly. None of these differences are significant. So what we found is that out of all the respondents, that's 61 individuals, 46% identified the soda correctly, 54% did not identify the soda correctly. That is no different from chance. So if you arrived and you flipped a coin on which one you were tasting first, you would have done just as well as if you put every ounce of energy that you had into that decision. So it was chance whether people could tell the difference in the sodas. Very interesting. When we get to all respondents in terms of sweetness, there is no statistical difference in the evaluation of the sweetness when looking at all respondents. We'll get to some differences here in just a minute. And then amongst all respondents, when we look at the taste, MD standing for Mountain Dew and MDRS standing for the real sugar version, we again see no difference in their taste evaluations. If we move over to the right and we look at preference, 2.5 is equal preference for both sodas. We see 2.7, which is also not statistically different from 2.5. So what we find is that there are really no differences between Mountain Dew and Mountain Dew Throwback when we look at everybody together as a group. That's all 61 respondents. But let's break it down a little bit more, because maybe we're not really interested in all respondents. For instance, we have those 10 people who don't drink soda. If you are Pepsi Mid-America, how much are you willing to invest in advertising to capture someone who is not going to drink soda? It's very difficult to convince them that they should change such a significant lifestyle decision. So you would focus more on those that are already consuming soda, getting them to swap to your brand, or potentially increasing the quantity that they are already purchasing and consuming. So looking at all soda drinkers does have some practical implications. Unfortunately, we don't see any differences between all soda drinkers. This is excluding people who don't drink soda when we look at sweetness, when we look at identification, as well as when we look at preference. I had to adjust some of the graphs here. I tried to keep them all on the entire scale, so from 0 to whatever the scale number was. Unfortunately, I didn't have room to present them that way, so I have had to adjust the scaling on these. That is due to presentation space, not in an attempt to manipulate the perceptions of the magnitudes. If you notice, 53 to 59 is a very, very large gap in terms of that graph. However, when you consider that difference between on a scale of 0 to 100, if you put that graph on here with 0 to 100, it shrinks down so small the lines are on top of each other and you can't tell that they are in fact different lines. So what we see is that among soda drinkers, those that drink 1 or more soda per week, those that drink 2 or more, 5 or more, or 8 or more, they are no better at identifying the real sugar version compared to the high fructose corn syrup version. And we do not see a statistically significant difference in their sweetness perceptions either, nor in preference. However, if you notice on preference, we have 5 or more is missing. That is because amongst those that drink 5 or more sodas per week, they do have a preference, but not amongst people that drink 8 or more sodas per week. So it does appear that if you are in this sweet spot of drinking 5 or more sodas per week, you do have a much stronger preference for Mountain Dew than you do for Mountain Dew Throwback. And we see part of that is driven by your difference in perceptions of taste. So those that drink 5 or more soda or 8 or more sodas per week, they do see a difference in the overall taste of Mountain Dew and Mountain Dew Throwback. With Mountain Dew, original Mountain Dew, not the throwback version, so the high fructose corn syrup version, being perceived as significantly more tasty. So very interesting there that only in the hardcore soda drinkers do we see them able to differentiate between the high fructose corn syrup and the cane sugar, at least in terms of taste. We don't know if there's a little bit of an interaction with the salt there as well, because they don't see a difference. If we look, do we have a... They don't see a difference in sweetness, but it does create a difference in overall taste. Very interesting. So there's something going on there with the sugar and the salt that people that have a lot of experience drinking sodas, they can somehow pick up on that difference. And the good news is they like Mountain Dew better. So now let's just look at Mountain Dew drinkers. If you notice, we're kind of carving down here, getting to people who we would think have better and better knowledge on this topic. So we would think they would be able to differentiate between these products with greater and greater ease. And in fact, what we see is not in terms of identification, at least. If you look across those that drink 1 or more Mountain Dews per week, those that drink 2 or more Mountain Dews per week, as well as those that drink 3 or more Mountain Dews per week, we do not see any significant difference in being able to identify high fructose corn syrup versus the sugar version relative to chance. So while we see a 40% chance at identifying the correct soda, that is no different from chance. Part of that is because the low sample size when we get to people that drink 3 or more Mountain Dews per week. And in terms of their overall preference for Mountain Dew versus Mountain Dew Real Sugar, we see a 2.8, which is not significantly different from equal preference of 2.5. However, we do see some differences here. So I've starred. If you notice, there's a star next to the values. That is indicating that is a significant difference. So if you look over here, for people that drink 1 or more Mountain Dews, so it doesn't hold true for those that drink a lot of Mountain Dews, but those that have some experience with Mountain Dews, they do prefer Mountain Dew over Mountain Dew Throwback. Now, whether that means if you're a hardcore Mountain Dew drinker, maybe you've dulled your senses to be able to tell the difference. Maybe you're so excited that it tastes similar enough to Mountain Dew that you group them together, versus somebody who only consumes 1 per week is maybe more differentiating. I can't really tell you exactly what's going on here. Maybe some of you in the audience fall into these categories and can provide us with some insights on why this is happening. But we do see a significant difference in terms of sweetness perceptions, with Mountain Dew being perceived significantly sweeter. And if you notice, we're seeing a trend here. Mountain Dew, when there's a preference, Mountain Dew is the preferred. When it has a higher taste or higher sweetness, it's almost always Mountain Dew that comes out on top. If we come down to taste, we do not see any significant differences for taste, except for the 1 or more. So consumers who drink 1 or more Mountain Dew, they do differentiate and say that classic Mountain Dew has a better taste than the Mountain Dew Throwback. But once you become a connoisseur at the 3 or more Mountain Dews, you lose that ability to tell the difference. You would have thought that as you consume more and more Mountain Dews, your ability to differentiate between the two would increase. We, in fact, do not see that, interestingly enough, at least in overall taste. We do in terms of sweetness. So what does all this mean? I think that's the big question. And I've got some information here from the internet, which I think is always very, very interesting. So if a preference exists, it is for Mountain Dew over Mountain Dew Real Sugar or Throwback, as illustrated by all significant differences leaning positively towards Mountain Dew over Mountain Dew Real Sugar. Now let's think about that. Mountain Dew was developed for what reason? Changing consumer taste. That's why they went away from the Real Sugar product. So if your goal was to meet changing consumer taste, your new product was high fructose corn syrup instead of sugar. And these are the results you got from a survey of college students at UT Martin. Would you think that modern Mountain Dew, the one that's been adapted with high fructose corn syrup, is it meeting the needs and preferences of this new consumer market? The answer appears to be yes. Yes, it is, which is incredibly satisfying, I have to say, especially when we started this research, because we really didn't know how it was going to go. But the research does support that if you were to choose one of the two products to release into the marketplace today, you would be better off choosing Mountain Dew in terms of satisfying consumers' taste and preferences relative to Mountain Dew with real sugar. And that's rather unexpected. So Mountain Dew with real sugar was perceived as being less sweet than Mountain Dew. If you go to the internet, and this is a cautionary tale about the internet, mountaindew.com/ or mountaindew.fandom.com, which is the Mountain Dew fan website, states that real sugar is a citrus flavor based on the original flavor, although it has a much sweeter taste due to not using high fructose corn syrup. Our data is in direct contradiction to that. Well, if you dig a little bit deeper, and again, I am no food scientist, but a little bit more research, since cane sugar is made of sucrose, is essentially a mix between corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup, since it's a mixture of glucose and sucrose. It is less sweet than fructose, so more cane sugar is required in recipes to gain the same amount of sweetness. I can tell you that answer number 2 is correct. High fructose corn syrup is perceived as sweeter than cane sugar. So be cautious where you get your information from on the internet, because it is not always accurate, especially from consumer-sourced websites. And it's wonderful to know that our data generated by the students here at UT Martin very much seems to support the overwhelming scientific position on this. And I'm pretty impressed that people were able to tell a difference between the two products. Did anybody in the audience that participated, were you confident in your response? Or maybe a lack of confidence? Lack of confidence?
Yeah, I thought the cane sugar would be sweeter.
You thought it was?
I thought the throwback would be sweeter.
Yeah, that's a lot of the preconceived notions and the wisdom that came into this. And if we actually go back, let's flip back to one more. Oop, it's a big presentation. Takes a second. There we go. Which one actually has more? So Mountain Dew with the high fructose corn syrup, the high fructose corn syrup should be perceived as sweeter, and it's got more of it. So it's kind of almost doubled down in that capacity, and we do see the data supporting that as well. Some of the interesting facts on confidence, so I did some more data analysis with confidence. Those that got the answer correct, those who were able to tell a difference between the two, such as here in the all respondents identified correctly, did not identify correctly. Those that identified it correctly were significantly more confident in their answer than those who did not identify it correctly. However, those that identified it correctly did no better than chance. So they were very confident, but that confidence didn't lead to an outcome that was significantly different from chance. So I thought that was interesting as well. When we look at non-soda consumers, we don't see any difference between non-soda consumers and soda consumers, except in terms of sweetness. Once again, as we've seen sweetness rather consistently be evaluated lower for the cane sugar version compared to the high fructose corn syrup version, we see that amongst non-soda consumers as well. In fact, the gap with non-soda consumers is the largest gap that we've seen in all of the data. So non-soda consumers seem to have a heightened ability to tell the difference between high fructose corn syrup and cane sugar. That may be because they're just not commonly consuming these large quantities of sugar sodas or sugared liquids as compared to other consumers. So there does appear to be a sweet spot. In fact, if you consume an extreme amount of soda, your ability to tell the difference may degrade. There does seem to be that sweet spot in terms of consumption where you can tell a difference. Net conclusion is that Pepsi has made the right decision to promote its modern Mountain Dew over its real sugar version, as indicated by consumer preferences for it overwhelmingly compared to the Mountain Dew Real Sugar. In fact, Mountain Dew Real Sugar was not rated higher in any category The only significant differences were always in the current Mountain Dew's favor, to the detriment of Mountain Dew Real Sugar. Very interesting. And a couple of conclusions, couple limitations and conclusions. One is our convenience sample. That's a highly biased sample. This is not very representative, as indicated by the fact that our average age is 21. And soda consumers, in fact, go not just the ages of 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, but we see them span the entire consumer age segment. So this is not representative of a general population, but it is somewhat representative of a younger generation that will soon go out into the marketplace with increased purchasing power. An additional one is the lack of environmental controls. Those that participated in the survey, you will attest there was quite a bit going on while participating and tasting. So there was a lot of clouded judgment because you were unable to entirely focus on the sensations that you were experiencing. That certainly attenuated our ability to focus on variance. Additional one is the survey/scale issue. So we included several scales. We were unable to operationalize the psychological scales due to significant differences in perceptions of the questions. So we were able to fall back on some alternatives, but our overall goal of using some of the taste scales unfortunately wasn't met. So some of the psychological evaluations could be improved. And then last but not least, a small sample size of 61 just limits the amount of data analysis that we can do. This is an actual picture from our taste test here. Some of those students are present with us. I went ahead and blurred the faces as we did not get permission from our respondents, and we want to give them as much privacy as they desire. And last but not least, we've got some sincere gratitude. We have to reach out and thank some people. One person who's not on this list is Mr. Ricky Price for coming down here, supporting our research, supporting the students, and providing opportunities for them to advance their career. Dr. Eric Nordberg was so polite in inviting us here today. Courtney Roberts, she was extremely helpful in processing our IRB request at the last minute. And then Lindy McCurley, she was very helpful in getting us the UC space for our data collection. So that is all I have for you today. Do you have any questions, concerns, humorous stories, or anecdotes that you would like to share about the taste test or about consumer behavior in regard to soda preferences? You're also welcome to clap. So a whole lot of data being presented for a rather simple conclusion. Such is the nature of academic research. If you found this interesting, this is Marketing 320, our consumer behavior class. This is the type of research we're doing all the time over in the marketing department, and in fact in MIS, Management, Marketing, and Information Systems. And we've got a wonderful question, yes. We have got some future research that we're looking at involving Mountain Dew and Mountain Dew Throwback, or a continuation of the high fructose corn syrup and the cane sugar. We're also pivoting, and we've got some research we're doing on Pepsi and Coke. So we have a lot of different taste tests that we're looking to integrate maybe into more of a holistic perspective. But absolutely, we are looking to do a continuation on this, not only for the students' engagement and involvement, but also I believe that the students who participated had quite a bit of fun as well. Dr. Nordberg.
Well, since you mentioned that, I'm standing right over here by your students. Is there anybody here that would like to share any comment on running a survey like this? Was it fun? Was it boring? What kind of weird things happened?
I know some of you guys had some comments about people's accuracy and so forth. Would anyone like to make some comments on that?
Oh, here, let me hand you the microphone. There you go, you're famous now.
I will say people were very confident in thinking that they could decipher the sodas, and they were extremely wrong. Very wrong, but it was very fun. Instituting the survey and getting to know people. And I will say that there were more people than I expected that participated. So it was a good time. Kelsey Atkinson.
And that's a good point. We really want to thank you all for putting in the work, for putting the effort, and helping us collect this data. You had to stop from what you were doing in your day. You had to sit down. What did we say? 1 to 2 minutes is all it takes. But you really had to give us 5 minutes, as Sarah's pointing out. So we appreciate all of your patience and kindness with helping us collect this data. And another question, yes.
Yeah, I was just curious, after the participants did their taste test and made their guesses, did you reveal to them the truth?
So we were very limited in what we could and could not reveal to them because, as you saw from the picture, the table was very crowded. And so we were concerned about people overhearing. So there were some select individuals that we enticed to come and do the survey under the prospect of providing them their answers. And we did provide them their answers in a more controlled and private environment. But we did not provide everybody that information. And part of it is, as I said, we were going A and then B and then B and then A. So we didn't have to limit what we could tell people because it was so easy to overhear it. In an ideal world, we would be able to give you anything and everything that you asked for. And we definitely desire to. But unfortunately, we were not able to do that in the environment that we had. A more controlled environment? Absolutely. Yes?
As you're asking people about their Mountain Dew consumption, did you differentiate among those who drink Diet Mountain Dew, how well they did in determining which is which?
So we had 3 main questions. We had one that asked about overall soda consumption, independent specifically of Mountain Dew, and then we had one that evaluated specifically Mountain Dew, the exactly what they were trying today, and then we had another one for the Mountain Dew Throwback, more of as a control. So we did not ask about diet soda, about alternative soda consumption, other than that overall summary of how many sodas do you drink per week. But I think it would certainly be interesting, since we were looking at sweetness, and you've hit on a very important variable, if we knew their soda consumption in terms of the different sweetness, because some diet drinks use sucrose, some use all different kinds of sweeteners. So in hindsight, a more accurate way would have been to ask them about exactly what soda they're typically drinking, so we could then correlate the exact sweetener that they have experience with our data here today. Unfortunately, we did not do that.
And I don't think any academic researcher would ever end a research presentation without saying that there's always room for more research.
There is lots of room for more research, more publishing opportunities, and more opportunities for more students to participate as well.
Great. Any more questions? Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. I know that it's a busy time of the semester for our students as we kind of wind down towards the end of the semester, but also so many others here in the room. I want to, before we do our swag giveaway, I do want to give one more round of applause, not only to Christian Bushardt, but to his class that conducted this really interesting research. So thank you.
The students are the true heroes.
Great, so we got some giveaways here. I don't know how best we want to do this. We were going to ask some questions of people. One of the ones that always happens with these is, who came the farthest today to attend our event?
I like football team. I'm not anything without my sales team, and these 3 right here showed up today and everything. If you guys come up here right quick. And I'm gonna get into real quickly about career advancements. This young lady started me 19 years ago as a sales merchandiser, just stocking. She took a sales position, now she's an area sales manager. Devin, same token, started out as stocking shelves at the store. Now was a sales rep, just like Christy. He's my own premise fountain syrup sales guy. Hunter, food and snack. If you ever buy anything out of a vending machine or that token, Hunter lives here in Martin. They live in the typical area. These are 3 successes that I tell you, the career paths you take in life, or if it's not you, a family member, or as you get into your own destiny or family, this is what you find in the job market. And for higher education that UTM brings out, I cannot say how much I appreciate the chancellor and his team for the job well done to give higher education a good name in a community that's well deserved. So again, I thank the UT Martin faculty and staff and their group of administrators and advisors for helping you guys get to this moment. Great questions. To one quick question about Diet Mountain Dew, it's took a fast pace run for the gate. The guy that's a caramel guy, it's got a red and white can, he's in bad trouble. I don't even use that word, but Diet Mountain Dew is steadily growing fast and quick. Thank you for your thought. So, but again, you tell me, somebody drove the farthest, who lives the farthest away from here? Just tell me real quick, and I'll let you guys.
Which student in this room comes from farthest away?
There you go. Where you from? Oh.
Yeah, come stand right over here.
Here you go.
In front of the screen here.
There you go. There's your Mountain Dew shirt. You guys, as we go through this, Christy, you guys have a question, ask a Mountain Dew question. My sales guys, that's what you guys get paid for. Does anybody, who drinks a Mountain Dew today? All right. There's 3 right there. We're gonna make this real quick. Y'all start digging in there, and I had 1, 2, 3 had a Mountain Dew there. 4, 5. Hey, there you go. Come on. There you go. There's caps, there's hats, there's. It is. Mountain Dew outsells Pepsi about 8, 9 to 1. When they place a sales order for a convenience store, it's 8 cases of 20-ounce Mountain Dew, 1 case of Pepsi. So I got my Mountain Dew shirt on. So 4, I'll ask the question. Who's been in the grind lately? Who? Who said they're going to the grind? All right. I'll give you a gift card. Can I do that? Hey, see? You'd be surprised what kind of, was you at the grind? There you go. Free milkshake. Thank you very much. So, if you had a job every day, I just hate coming to work every day. This is the fun part of my job. This is the fun part. I get to see people happy, and I get to give things away and everything. So, again, Christy, think of something real quick. Has anybody been to Walmart lately? There you go. All right. There you go. You've been to Walmart? There you go. I'll give you a cup. Hunter? Has anybody bought anything out of a snack or vending machine lately? I see a hand. Hunter? That's the fun part about it. We'll just make things up as we go.
I like the market over here. That's where my money comes from.
Go ahead.
Who went to the market here lately?
Who's went to the UTM market?
On the fly. There you go. See?
There's a sleeve. I didn't know what these were. Hey, you know what I thought that was? That's what you want. You need to play basketball, Christy. I might be that old school, but I'm the throwback, guys. I'm the throwback in this business, okay? All right. Anything else for you guys? Anybody bought any snack? Who brought a Mountain Dew out of a snack machine? Out of a vending machine? In the back. We're good. Good? I thank you guys very much for being supporters. And again, if anybody's looking for a career path, Paris, Tennessee, or Paducah, Kentucky, over 5 state areas.
Great. Well, thanks again, everybody, for coming out. And we'll have our next event actually after commencement, Thursday, December the 15th. We're going to be down at the Martin Public Library. Our very own Sam Richardson here from Special Collections is going to report on a research project that we've been doing to survey historical records across West Tennessee. So for the rest of you, good night and be safe. Bye.